Hello, I'm Matt, welcome to Badger Workshop. This is all Joe's fault from Average Joe's Joinery. He mentioned there's some sales on and I ended up buying a new table saw, but I need a stand for it, so let's get started.
The saw I decided to go for was a Bosch GTS 10J. I would love a big cabinet saw with a cast iron top, but I don't have room for one, I can't afford it, and I know I'm going to be moving in the next couple of years, so I'd have to carry the whole thing out again. So my plan was to build a stand and surround for this job site saw to make it more usable in the workshop. But if I needed to take the saw outside, it would just lift out and it could be moved easily. This is all getting knocked together out of some 2x3s and then with some sheet goods added on. Just quick, easy construction, very similar to how I made my storage rack. First I made the frame for the top and an identical frame for the bottom. Then I actually screwed the legs onto the top first, making sure they were nice and straight. With the top on, I flipped it the right way up onto the floor and then put the bottom surround on. I used some scraps of 2x4 just to lift it off the ground. I used all my offcuts of 2x3s to add some extra bracing. This one at the top leaves a gap big enough for the table saw to slip in. The top was going to be covered with some 18mm ply. The plan was to surround all four sides of the table saw. At first I thought I'd get a sheet of ply and cut out a square for the saw to fit into, but decided the only advantage of doing it like that was really it'd look nice, and for a shop project it doesn't have to look nice, it just has to work. So I cut one big sheet to go to the right of the saw, and then 3 little strips to go around the other sides. This also caused less wastage. I wanted the top of the saw to fit perfectly parallel to the sheets of plywood. I could have spent time measuring and working out what the height it needs to go, but I decided to go for this method. I flipped the table upside down onto a sheet of plywood for protection, then dropped the saw down upside down into the recess I'd created for it. This meant the saw and the plywood were all on the same plane. I could then put a piece of plywood on top of the saw, which is actually the bottom of it. The plywood shelf then got a couple of bits of 2x3 to use as supports, and these got screwed into place. I could then flip it the right way up and attach the plywood to the 2x3s. I've got loads of little scraps of sheet goods laying around, so I used different thicknesses for different shelves all over this project. I'm sure I'm like most people, I keep all those little bits thinking I'll use those one day, and this was a great project to actually use them on. Under the saw itself and to the side, there's quite a lot of extra storage space I've got now. Now for the moment of truth, does everything actually sit flush? And it actually did, the first time. Amazing. The saw has a right hand extension wing that pulls out, and it has a fence that goes all that way, but that's the one negative thing I've read in reviews about this saw, is the fence system. So I've got an aftermarket fence that I'm going to attach to the table. This is a better system and it will give me a wider cut capacity. Also, if I ever want to use this saw without the stand, I can just lift the saw out and use the fence that came with it. Time for a first test cut. I'm really pleased how this turned out, and it's going to make my life so much easier and give you some extra storage. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe for more videos.